Thank you. I'm going to speak Spanish. After all, it's the second most spoken language in the world, and we have a very good interpretation system. So I will use my own language. Bien, muchas gracias por...
Thank you for all of your comments and all of your observations. They differed rather. There was quite a broad range of interpretations of my visit and the relationships between the EU and Russia. I've taken note of your comments, and we will take them into account in preparing future debates in the External Action Service and preparing councils. However, if I may, I would like to say that when I listen to some of you, my impression is that it was me that expelled the European diplomats. That it was my fault that the diplomats were expelled. Apologies, but it was Mr. Lavrov who expelled the diplomats. Was it a reaction to my public comments on the Navalny case? Maybe. But I think you all have to agree who did it. And then I heard some of you are saying things about whether or not we should have done the press conference. Your comments don't reflect reality. That's not how things were. In the radio and press conference, it's very clear. I say twice to Mr. Lavrov that I was there, and in our meeting, that we are more than concerned. We are against the rulings that are being handed down against Mr. Navalny and the attacks on him and the demonstrations that were led to in civil society. I said this twice, at the beginning, at the end. So how can you come here and say that I didn't raise the issue of Mr. Navalny, or that I didn't defend his position or defend public demonstrations? We're not talking about the same thing. There's a transcript. Please read it. So what's the problem here? For some of you, the problem seems to be that the visit took place, that it happened, that the High Representative decided to carry out a visit to Moscow. Do you know how many times official delegations at ministerial level or above have taken place to Russia in the last 2 years by EU member states? 19. 19 times there have been visits to Russia. So should we go, should we not go? Or can everyone go apart from the High Representative? So what, my colleagues can go but I can't? 19 visits there have been, 19 times. It's not forbidden, it's not so strange to go. It seems to be fairly normal, 19 times. The problem, perhaps it was the wrong time. Okay, there are differences of opinion on this. Some people think it was the wrong time because of the ruling against Mr. Navalny, and others might think that it was precisely because of that it was the right time to go, in order to clearly, directly and personally set out our position. It's easier to stay at my desk writing statements. It would have been much less risky and more comfortable. I don't think it's so strange, however, to think that this was the right time to do it. People were saying, oh no, it's too risky, no, it's better not to go. Or not to go now, go later. When Mr. Navalny had already been sentenced. Well, my view is different, and has the support of the majority of the Foreign Affairs Council. There was a majority in favour. To me, it seems, and it still seems, that for human rights defenders and those defending those who fight for human rights is in our DNA. We have to make it clear that this is our position. Has this been damaging to the opposition in Russia? Has it undermined the position of Mr. Navalny? I don't understand why it would have done. Now, perhaps we could discuss at the time at which we were publicly setting out our positions, that things could have been done differently or should have been done differently. Of course, there are different interpretations, and in the general view, it seems like I should have tackled it differently. But I don't see a press conference as a debate or some kind of dispute. I was explaining my position, and I repeat it. I transmitted the message that I went to put across, that the European Union is profoundly disagrees and condemns the attempted assassination of Mr. Navalny, the sentences against him, and the pressure on civil society and on the demonstrators, the activists. I said that and I've repeated it. That's the message I went to give. Yet despite this, there are areas where we could possibly imagine cooperation that would be beneficial to both parties. Some people say that in the DCPOA, I'm supporting the Russian position and undermining the United States. If you can criticize me, but do it in a justified way. Don't invent things just to justify your own criticisms. We're trying to keep the treaty up and running, despite what had happened in the United States. In Russia, it said that they're trying to stand firm against them. And when I've discussed this, we're told that we're a puppet of the United States, and that will always condemn what Russia does, but never what the United States do, because they're our allies, and that way I'll have double standards. We are allies of the United States, but this doesn't mean that we're 100% behind them on every single position that they take and every single decision that they make. There are some cases where we disagree. We have to say that, and we do say that. When we believe that it's necessary and convenient to do so, we say so. Now, some of you seem to be quite surprised by this because you seem to have a rather one-sided view. But I'm not xenophobic against anyone. We have to stand with someone when it's right and set out a firm position when that's necessary. Now, you might say this was the wrong time to do so. I can understand that the result wasn't as hoped, and now we have to accept and admit that the media view and the majority view in this chamber seems to be that it wasn't the right thing to do. But was that because I shouldn't have gone in the first place? Or that I should have gone later? Is it because we didn't discuss the topics that we wanted to discuss? Because we didn't defend Mr. Navalny and his position? There are a whole series of different events of facts that have to be analysed one by one. But we can't just lay the blame and say that the only beneficiary was the Kremlin. Because at the end of the day, what we're talking about is acting with unity and determination. Autocratic, authoritarian countries believe that democracies are intrinsically weak because of being democratic. But history shows this isn't the case. Since the fall of the Berlin Wall and the end of Soviet Union, we've shown that democracies are stronger, we're more resilient, because we have a unity that lies above and beyond our differences. In this case, as in others, what we have to do, both before and after my mission to Russia, is to build unity between member states and unity of action with the US. And we have to work on that now in the Foreign Affairs Council, under the guidance and of the European Council. We have to make it clear what our position is towards Russia. And of course, we have to talk to them as well. The issue of human rights and the Navalny case in particular, when that is raised, the Russians say, well, we're not going to talk about it. The end. We have to see some kind of mediation, but we can't say that it was very clear. For Russia, someone went there clearly, directly, personally said what we've said in our statements many times now. I don't think that it was wrong to go and say to them face to face what we say in writing. I think it was the right time to use all of our strength, all of our force, and the strength of the physical presence of the High Representative to set out our position on the Navalny case. Despite any other shortcomings, I think if we believe that civil liberties and human rights are at the heart of our political union, then the situation of Navalny requires our clear, strong presence. Now, some people weren't happy to see me continue discussions with Mr. Lavrov and have discussions on issues, including the Navalny case. There was an attempted assassination, and there were a whole series of rulings against him. And now we're comparing that to some members who sit in this chamber or other colleagues who are freely campaigning in Catalonia at the moment. Do you think that is a sensible comparison? It's clear that it's not. Quite clearly. But I'm not going to get into this discussion. I just want to repeat once again the message that I went there to pass on. The European Union protests, condemns, asks for investigations into the circumstances that occurred around Mr. Navalny, and that we believe that this was an unjust ruling. We urge respect of the rights and the human rights of Russian citizens. These are the topics on which it's necessary and inevitable to search for cooperation. However, to cooperate, you need two sides. If the Russian authorities don't want to do that, then we take note, and we will try to find another way to move forward with the relationship. Despite everything, I think we did manage to achieve some positive points in the visit. It could have been better, but we know we have a better idea of what we're dealing with and what to expect. I think what we have to do now in the European institutions, the Council, the Parliament, the Commission, is to clearly and calmly analyse what future steps we should take in the relationship with Russia. And I hope this debate has contributed to that. Thank you.
Dziękuję bardzo. Zamykam debatę.
Thank you very much. I close the